Matthew Bell with Alzheimer'sProof.com. Today I want to talk a little bit about gift ideas for the holidays. And what I have in mind is when somebody looks at a family, let's say where somebody is an Alzheimer's sufferer or suffering from some other kind of dementia or cognitive impairment, maybe there are caretakers involved, the question becomes, what are some things that you can actually get for them for the holidays, whether the holiday in question is Christmas or Hanukkah or some other kind of holiday. The question is, as a loved one, you want to provide something to them that will be meaningful, that's not going to go to waste, that's not going to be lost, but at the same time, in many cases, people are at a loss as to what actually would make a good gift. So I'm just going to give you a couple of suggestions, some things to think about. So first, just a couple of caveats. First of all, the kinds of gifts that are going to be meaningful are obviously going to be very personal kinds of decisions. I won't be able to speak to those kinds of things as much, except to simply say that if you know that your grandma had a collection of teacups, for example, maybe you buy a teacup to add to her collection. If you think that she's still cognitively able to understand that and cognitively able to keep good care of the teacups, that might be a gift idea. On the other hand, if Granddad has a collection of guns, cognitive impairment being what it is, probably not a good idea to buy Granddad another firearm for his collection. So you have to use common sense there, and obviously there's going to be the need to have a knowledge of your loved one's interests and past history, and that would be something I can't provide to you. Also, these gift ideas are also going to depend on the stage. So as we know, and I have another video, I'll put the link in the description, where I talk about the various stages of Alzheimer's disease. In general, there's debate, in terms of how the stages should be classified, but we'll just talk about it in terms of an early stage, a middle stage, and a late stage. That is to say, Alzheimer's is going to get worse over time. So if a person's in early stage, you're going to have more variability in terms of what you can give them as a gift. If they're in later stage, you might be more severely hampered. So you also want to know what stage your loved one is in, and if you don't know, then ask the caretaker. Now I'm going to divide these into gift ideas for the sufferer, him or herself, as well as gift ideas number 2 for the caretaker. But bear in mind, some of these gift ideas are going to pull double duty. That is, it's not going to be entirely clear whether certain gifts are for the caretaker or for the sufferer. So if you offer to buy supplies that might be necessary, maybe medically necessary, those could be adult diapers or particular kinds of nutritional supplements. These could be any number of things. If you purchase those, on the one hand, you might be helping the caretaker so that he or she does not have to spend their own money on those supplies. But on the other hand, those supplies obviously are going to be earmarked for the sufferer. But let's get into it a little more. So there's a number of gift ideas. First of all, for the Alzheimer's sufferer, him or herself, you can provide gifts that would be of some use in the home. Now, these could be aids for activities of daily living, things like medical supplies, walkers. You might have grab bars or handrails that you might offer to pay for the installation of in the home. They might be ID tracking bracelets. There are ID tracking watches, GPS trackers that can help to protect the family in the event that the Alzheimer's patient elopes or wanders away. You could subscribe the person to a tracking service. The Alzheimer's Association, for instance, has partnered with Medic Alert to provide a tracking system that you can actually subscribe to that is going to help to facilitate the recovery of your loved one in the event that he or she wanders away. Now, there may also be home modifications and other things that could potentially be of use to the family and to the sufferer. And I invite you to click on some of the other videos that I've done where I highlight some of my favorite interventions. That's going to be an ongoing series, so I do invite you to check back for that. But it might include things like child safety devices that are placed on dangerous pieces of equipment or on things in the kitchen, for example, an oven lock. You might get a microwave that has the ability to be locked so that it can't be operated without authorization. You might have certain security devices placed on doors to try to prevent or minimize elopement, things along the lines of this. Now, there are also gift ideas that help the Alzheimer's patient just to have a higher quality of life and maybe more enjoyment out of life. These might be things that facilitate or encourage reminiscence. Things like photo albums. You could get a photo album and possibly supply your own pictures, maybe photographs of family and other people that that person actually knew, On the other hand, there are numerous books, and I have a resource page, I'll link to it in the description as well, where I get into various picture books and other things that are now being published specifically for adults who have cognitive impairments. So these are similar to children's books, but they're different in the sense that obviously children are learning and acquiring language, whereas the Alzheimer's patient is decreasing in cognitive function. They might look very similar, but they're going to be geared towards different things. In addition to that, I've seen picture books, and maybe I can put a couple of these on the screen here for you, picture books that concentrate on pictures that would be meaningful to an older adult, but wouldn't mean anything to a child. For example, picture book of movie stars from the 1940s or 30s or 50s. Now, there are also other kinds of crafts, activity books, flashcards, simple art project kits that might be appropriate for your particular loved one. Another idea would be classic movies, classic TV shows, maybe on DVD or possibly through streaming if you are equipped for that. In addition, music, MP3 downloads or CDs of songs that your loved one might have appreciated when he or she was young. In the case of my dad, some of his memories of childhood and some of the songs that he listened to when he was young, he still appeared to be moved by and appreciate even after a lot of his language and other faculties had gone. Now, as the older adult advances through the stages of Alzheimer's disease, you might be more and more limited, again, as we said, in terms of what you can purchase. And there may be other gift ideas that might be appropriate for people as they start to lose additional cognitive faculties. Some of these might include an erasable whiteboard, somewhere where, for my dad, we had a whiteboard in the hall, and on that whiteboard he would have instructions about brushing his teeth and eating lunch and things like that. He was able to use those early. As his cognitive functions declined, of course, he became less able to do so. Maybe a large calendar, something that's more easily seen, help to keep track of what day it is. Perhaps a pill dispenser, a particular one that might not allow a person with Alzheimer's to open more than one compartment so that they don't have any risk of overdose or of taking more than the required amount of a particular medication. Now, having said that, you got to realize with those kinds of interventions, they are not designed to be foolproof. You never want to rely, if you have a loved one in a condition of cognitive impairment, then the most important thing is going to be diligent or vigilant watchfulness over that person, and you shouldn't rely on an electronic device to do that. However, it can be a great assistance to people who have other caretaking duties or other duties besides caretaking. There are also some interesting devices like TV timers, things that would allow, my dad used to watch television programs and then he would predictably fall asleep. So a TV timer can be helpful because if he fell asleep while the TV was on and I was able to turn it off, when he awoke, he might get into a craft activity. Whereas if he fell asleep, woke up and the TV was still on, he might watch TV for the rest of the day. So a timer might be a good investment. We said craft supplies, other things, perhaps dietary supplements, herbal supplements, aromatherapy, depending on your inclination. And I have other videos where I survey the landscape of those things, and you can get many ideas, specific ideas, from some of those videos. Before I move to caretaker ideas, let me just say one word about things that you probably would not want to purchase. Those would be anything that would be dangerous, so dangerous tools. Even though my dad was a handyman type for most of his life, buying a cognitively impaired person a power saw or a handsaw or hammer is probably not a good idea. There are craft kits that might be appropriate, and even some carpentry kits that I've seen that might be appropriate for a person who's cognitively impaired. But on the other hand, if it were my dad and you put a hammer in his hand, he might get an idea to do some home repair project, and next thing you know, he's agitated because he wants to get the ladder down and I won't let him do it. So you have to kind of be aware of who you're buying for and any kind of triggers that might be implicit in some of the things that you buy. Dangerous utensils as well. So for example, if mom was a baker or liked to cook, maybe buying her a blender is not a good idea because she could be hurt by it and still might retain the memory of what it is, want to use it, and potentially cause difficulty. Now another don't would probably be anything that's going to be a frustrating experience for the person. So there are games, puzzle books, and other kinds of things like this, but if you buy a person a puzzle that's simply beyond their capability, or a book that is going to be a frustrating experience to try to read, a game that is too complex, an electronic device that they can't figure out, then the gift might be lost on the person. Might be a waste of money. Additionally, some people have found solace in pets. Pets can be a positive influence, but at the same time, if a caretaker is full-time trying to care for a person who is cognitively impaired, to add in care of a pet can be an extraordinary load on top of their other duties. In addition to that, some pets can be disturbing or agitating to the cognitively impaired person. They require care and upkeep. They require additional expenses. So there are alternatives. There are some actually very lifelike stuffed animals, some of which are battery operated so that they actually appear to sort of move slightly, look perhaps like they're breathing. And from certain reviews that I've seen, a number of cognitively impaired older adults seem to appreciate those kinds of things. And it might seem a bit corny, but those kinds of things can be a very good alternative to an actual pet. Now, as a person moves into advanced stages of Alzheimer's, in this case, comfort becomes the operative word. Essentially, some of the best gifts probably for somebody who is in later stage, they might be wheelchair bound or non-ambulatory, they might be bedridden. At that point, really keeping them comfortable is probably going to be the only game in town. So for instance, some of the sources that I consulted recommend things like comfortable clothes, a bathrobe, slippers, a nice pillow, maybe non-slip socks with little rubber strips on them so that they don't slip and fall, which is not a bad idea, or at least not a bad stocking stuffer idea, even for people who are a little bit earlier in dementia, because fall risk can simply afflict seniors, period. Anyway, a lot of ideas. As I move into now caretakers, we kind of shift gears. Caretakers in general, I would say, some of the gift ideas are going to fall into two general categories. One is going to be gifts that pertain to their caretaking duties, and the other is going to be gifts that don't. And you have to kind of gauge this. You might, hedge your bets by giving something in each category, or you might just have a conversation with the caretaker and ask, what would be more meaningful to you? If I gave you something that would help you in your caretaking role, or if I gave you a gift certificate to go have dinner in a nice restaurant and take a night off. So just a word on that. There is a word in the long-term care industry and in the insurance industry called Respite Care. And what Respite Care essentially is it's where the primary caretaker utilizes a surrogate caretaker for a very limited period of time. It could be an evening, it could be a weekend. It's not going to be a long period of time, but respite is for the caretaker. It means to give the caretaker time off. And in this case, obviously, if you buy a gift certificate for a restaurant or for a movie, and the caretaker cannot take the time to use it, once again, that not only is going to be wasted money, but it might be a source of frustration for the recipient, because he or she might think, thanks, but I can't use this because I have no ability to leave for an evening. So consider donating your time, or trying perhaps to purchase respite care services just for an evening. Because even if you don't buy a gift certificate for somebody who's a caretaker, if you can provide respite care for an evening so that they can just simply take time off and do what they like, that might be one of the most meaningful gifts that you can give. Now, similarly to that, if the caretaker has other responsibilities, for example, if the caretaker also has children, maybe also has pets, also has some other kind of a full-time job, you might be able to help ease some of the burdens on their caretaking by offering to do certain things for them in other respects. A corollary to this would be ways of providing services that are necessary in the home that the caretaker might otherwise have to accomplish. And I just mean here cooking, cleaning, house repairs, lawn care, laundry, general chores and upkeep of the home. If you can help to provide or to take care of some of these needs, that might reduce the amount of work on the caretaker, at least for a limited period of time. Additionally, you might offer to cook something, or might bring some meal prepared for them. Once again, gift cards, obviously, for something that might be meaningful. You might provide a subscription to a grocery store that offers delivery services. Then there are books. I have a number, and I already mentioned it with respect to Alzheimer's sufferers, with respect to picture books, but there are all kinds of books that can be beneficial to a caretaker. A number of these might include informational books, and I'll put links in the description here again. Might include informational books, inspirational books, practical sort of how-to books, activity books that enable them to maybe do something new and different with their loved one that they're caring for. Now, bear in mind here, books are often a good source of information, but In some cases, if the caretaker's responsibilities are acute and they are feeling like they are spread in many directions, to provide them with a book might be useful to them, and it might simply be construed as just another thing that now they have to do. And so you might even consider purchasing a book on your own and then reading it, and instead of giving the book to the caretaker, you might consider simply having a conversation with the caretaker where you summarize some of the points so that they feel like they don't have to spend the time to do a research project or acquaint themselves with the information, that you can provide it to them via summary. Now, there are also gifts that might serve to reinvigorate or re-energize a caretaker. Once again, we mentioned things like gift certificates to restaurants, to movies, nights off, relaxing events, things that they'll be able to do that are going to take their minds away from their caretaking responsibilities responsibly. Once again, this cannot be done unless respite care is at least provided for. You might give gift certificates to a massage parlor, or for caretakers to receive manicures, pedicures, and other kinds of pampering things that they might not usually have the ability to take the time to do. You might consider exercise classes, yoga. There are things like spin and body pump and other kinds of exercise programs that not only can help the caretaker to stay physically fit, because caretaking does take a toll, but can also improve mood and other things as well. Also, I should mention just briefly that monetary support is something that can be invaluable to the caretaker. In many cases, caretakers pay for the expenses of their loved ones, whether they're health expenses or just regular mortgage, utility, grocery costs. Oftentimes, the caretaker is in the position of at least having to spend some of his or her own money on expenses to keep the household for this person or for their care in their nursing home, to just keep them going. So if you are able to provide a gift, and the annual gift exclusion in 2019 now, as I speak to you, is $15,000. There is a lifetime gift exemption that's around $11 million. So that's for a gift. You can also consider a qualified charitable donation. Sometimes if you have money that is in a retirement account like a 401k or an IRA, and you're required to take a minimum distribution after the age of 70 and a half, you might consider donating some of your money. Now, in some cases, that money is going to have to go to an actual institution rather than to a private individual. But you might consider donating to a nursing home. You might consider donating to the Alzheimer's Association or something along the lines of that. You might offer to pay for necessary supplies, as I already mentioned. If your loved one is in a care facility, just a brief word, you might also consider buying a food basket, a gift basket, some cookies, some fruits and vegetables, donuts. Depending on the health consciousness of the facility and the staff, you might consider buying something to keep in their break room just as a token of appreciation for the work that the staff does. Maybe buying them coffee one morning. But of course, not all gifts have to cost money. You can do something that is simply personally meaningful, a collage with pictures that are of people who were important to your loved one or to the person that you're buying the gift for might be extraordinarily appropriate, and that can benefit both the Alzheimer's sufferer as well as the caretaker. Homemade gifts would also fall into that classification. Finally, one of the most valuable things that is sometimes able to be given is just the gift of your time and your presence to, number one, visit your loved one, whether or not he or she is in a nursing home or in an assisted living or in someone's residence. Giving that gift to them can be extraordinarily meaningful both for you and for them. Not only thinking about visiting the afflicted person, but also caretakers can feel very isolated, very alone. So simply checking in on them and saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying for you, depending on your religious views, whatever it is, to just let them know that you're on their mind, and then ask, is there something that I can do for you practically? Finally, there would be the ability to get some kind of just token of appreciation, whether it is simply a letter that you write in thanks. It could be a certificate or something you have engraved, some kind of a piece of jewelry, maybe a plaque that you get in order to commemorate or to honor or to show that you notice the time and the effort that they put into their caretaking responsibilities. So I'm sure that I have neglected any number of other gift ideas. Like I started off by saying, many of the gifts that you might think are going to be best in your case are ones that I can't possibly know about, because only you will have the background with your loved one or with the caretaker to really know what would be meaningful for them. So if they have, like I said, collections is just one idea that sticks out in my mind. You know, if they have a collection of baseball cards or of Precious Moments figurines, you might simply add to the collection just as a way of saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. So I can't advise you on those kinds of things. I hope that something I said was of interest or maybe sparked your imagination. Sometimes it just takes a little suggestion to get us kind of going. You might end up getting something completely different. If you are interested, I do have some resource pages and I'm expanding those, so I invite you to check out those book links. Click on those. Not all the books are available through Amazon, but many of them are. Some of them are older printings. Some are movies, videos, documentaries, and the like of that. So I invite you to click on that link and I'll take you to my website where you will actually have the ability to kind of look at all the titles, and then if you wish to click on those, I do have an Amazon affiliate link, and I would appreciate that if something I said was of use to you, using the affiliate link to make that purchase would be a way of helping to continue to keep this channel going, but it is certainly not necessary. I thank you for your time today. I look forward to seeing you in another video. I invite you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell to be alerted to new content as it becomes available. Thank you so much, and I wish you happy and safe holidays.